Hey, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to get some thoughts down on video before bingo starts. Um, Talking about that among other topics. So I hope you enjoy this little ramble. I did have something directly prepared and actually written out, but I seem to have lost it. So I'm just going to go off the cuff as I normally would. Hope you're all doing well. I turned 30 recently, and I think that's birthdays don't really bother me that much. To go through what I went through in my life, you figure that birthdays aren't really that special, which is unfortunate because I'd like them to be, and they are now due to the circumstances that I'm living in. But I think for a lot of what I'm trying to say is for a lot of us being teenagers and young adults, young men in particular, growing up in modernity, surrounded by video games and decadence, then um, there's a lot of sense that you need to celebrate it with something, but you don't know who with or how to, especially if you spend a lot of your life being a neat or just playing online video games for 17, 18, 19 hours a day, like I did in my youth. So it's hard to shake the disposition of, oh, it's just another day. Or, I distinctly remember progress raiding on my birthday one time. That was just a full day raid. And it was just, these things are just another day for me. But I remember that more than the actual celebration of my birth or any party that I did, which is a shame. So I'm as I turn 30 and as I'm shifting further away from that sense of life, I'm getting back to something which I can actually celebrate and be proud of, rather than something that I hide away from and kind of not tell anyone about. I'd probably rather not want to be someone who feels like they're obliged just to stream 6 hours more per day on their birthday as a special event, because people kind of have it as like something to celebrate, but it's all kind of ironic now. You just post your Pepe with your birthday hat on and kind of how you're feeling, and I don't know. I don't think the frog's something to really aspire to, especially when he looks so happy but sad at the same time. I'd rather just be fully happy and celebrate it with people who I know and love. Those are just some thoughts, really. Um, on turning 30, another thought is that I'm pretty old to be playing video games, as it were, but I actually don't think I am. It's I think my relationship with gaming and RuneScape in particular is a lot more integrated and my more successful side of real life than others at a younger age. But I know that when I was previously younger, um, I still felt older. I've always felt like a boomer in the communities that I hang around in. So that's been fine, but at the same time, it, it it's cringe for me to stoop down to level or whatever. So maybe I need to be a bit more regal about that to myself, maybe a bit more private or something. Just some basic reflections. But let me know what you think in the comments about that. Really, as you grow older, or as you were, say you're like 7, 10 years younger than me. I'm 30, so you might be 20 or 26 or whatever. What are your thoughts on leaving your 20s behind and moving into a newer age, a newer decade of your life? Would you be do you see yourself doing the same things that you're doing now, or are you working to something a bit more aspirational, a craft or a business that you're building or value that you can bring to other people other than just like playing this game, or is this something kind of surrendered to and you're going down that path? Both are fine in my eyes, but a dissonance between both is unhealthy, and I've definitely had that for a long time. I felt like I've been able to integrate myself more into the balance of things. Another thing I wanted to talk about was JYHY. Shout out to you. He sent me a question, DMs, because he's nearly all pets now. He's got Bloodhound Death, and I'm doing Nightmare, obviously, because I've got a background in skilling and skilling type goals and things. Um, he wanted to kind of get my insight onto my mindset around grinding for a skill versus grinding for an RNG job, and I think one thing I found incredibly cringe watching. I watch Behemoth every day. I think he's a good cornerstone of the community, and makes me catch up on things which might be happening. And it is just relatively entertaining to have that short burst of 10 minutes, because I don't know about you guys, but Twitch is just a sufferable platform for a long time. I can't find an ad blocker that works for it. I think its gamification and its chat function with bits and the type trains is it's just really silly and kind of gives a wrong sense of incentive to any entertainer at all. I think Boaty gets it right, where he kind of just ignores it and plays it off, and really focuses on the content, but other people seem to fall down the trap of needing to play up to these type of things and just sense the false the false sincerity of thanking someone for something which is actually really insignificant to see of people watching you and creating parasocial relationships. So I've really just gone off Twitch as a platform, but in terms of watching highlights and things, that's what it's there for, and I really appreciate that. I also don't like people who feel like they need to stream on Twitch. There are other platforms which give you better revenue, can probably serve you better as a content creator, but because Twitch is such a ideologically protected thing in community, it's just where you stream or whatever. It's where we started, so it's where we need to end. I think an exodus of Twitch would be a nice thing, but oh no, you can't POG anymore. So, but that's what Discord's for, and you can create your own emotes for that. I think a culture of more smaller, more intimate, protected, and higher level streams on Discord might be good. But again, it's a monetization aspect of it, and you're just trying to get that balance right. That's by the by. What I cringe on is people celebrating something they didn't earn. What I mean by it is the actual drop itself. If you know anything about basic statistics, you know that the drop chance isn't actually the drop chance. It's just the chance that that's just every iteration you kill a boss, for example, that's the chance of it dropping. But in terms of going dry or being spooned or whatever, I hate that terminology, because people think being dry is hitting the drop rate when really it's just 1/3 of so. Some basic stats, right? Say I'm going for an Inquisitor's Mace and it's 1 out of 2,000. If I hit 1 out of 2,000, doesn't necessarily mean I'm dry per se. It's just that I'm not even dry. I haven't even hit the average amount of time for completion of that item, or completion of the boss, if that's where your goal is. You're kind of 1 in 3. 1 in 3 times you're always going to go dry. That's kind of the nature of so. It's a plus EV move to grind for anything. Therefore, to be burnt out on something just seems arbitrary. My basic thesis is that you can't really complain about going dry unless you hit 5x dry in my eyes, and you've got to be prepared for that as a reasonable chance of happening. If you're 2x dry, that's only 1 in 6, right? 1 in 6 of all people will go 2x dry. I think it's 1 in 12 go 3x. I think it gets 1 in 50, 1 in 100. 1 in 50 is 4x dry. 1 in 50 is a pretty reasonable odds, right? But it's still plus EV, so you don't really care about those odds. You just go for the drop, right? So in my eyes, the RNG doesn't really play a factor because the drop is guaranteed to happen. It's just a matter of when and how true you can stick to the process of actually going for it. It's the going for it which is the celebration and relief at the end that you've done that thing, rather than a sense of relief because otherwise you were suffering because you were attaching your sense of accomplishment to something which is outside your control, which is the drop, rather than the process of it, because the process is guaranteed, right? What's not guaranteed is the effort that you're putting in to it, and whether you quit or not on something which is a plus EV anyway. So you should be doing it regardless, because most of the time you will not go dry. You will actually hit the chance for it by the time gets to that. So it's incredibly rare for someone to go dry in a sense that would make you quit. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth doing in the first place. So you kind of just have to go do it. When I'd written down exactly what I was going to say on this topic, it was a lot more coherent. But I think I got the message across there that if you're celebrating a drop, which you're spooned for, I feel yeah, okay, cool. But I think what I find more cringe is people going, "Oh, I'm 2x dry of this," and it's that's nothing, bro. That really is. You got to keep in mind that these things are inevitable, will happen, and you just need to wait for it to happen. And that the 2x dry is only out 1 out of 6. Now, that's only a 13% chance if you go on normal distribution, right? 1 out of 6 people will have gone dry at that point. That's just a matter of life. But 2x dry is nothing compared to what could actually happen in reasonable terms. If you're getting 6 dry, 7x dry, now you're going, okay, this is actually a statistical anomaly here. But if you're hitting 98th percentile, 99th percentile type stats, I mean, I find that pretty reasonable, especially in a game as it's large. And even is that even a thing worth complaining about, given the enjoyment you would get out of the thing? Otherwise, why would you do it in the first place? I think what's handy though, and probably into the next topic about mains being a dead game mode now, with the introduction of Group Ironman and the design direction of the game, is that everything is plus EV. If you put a drop on something, you're guaranteed to get it as long as you keep going at it. it's not as if it's never going to drop, right? So you just keep going. The odds may be low, but the odds is just a psychological aberration in your brain, which is preventing you from actually seeing the true the true aspect of it. I mean, with what I think there's a couple of consequences of being a real dead game mode. I think the biggest red flag here really is where the game design is going to go, which is incongruent with their current hesitation to. I'm talking about Jagex here, to introduce something which is directly better than Armadyl, Bandos, but they will introduce something better than Ancestral, which is very interesting. Again, the power creep happens in weird places. What I'd like them to do, especially now that, because there'll be definitely by default less mains in the game, you can have a more traditional sense of progression in gear, similar to World of Warcraft, where you had clear tiers of power creep that you would increase over time. Because people play Iron Man in a sense of progression, which they probably shouldn't, which once I'll get into the next topic after that, but because the actual jumps in power aren't actually that significant compared to the time that you would save actually going for it. But that's just, I'm on a PC mode and I really like that approach to the game. But because people play in the sense of progression of you do this first, and then you do this, then you do this, and this is the end game. They have a mid game. You add more end game stuff, but it's kind of like tangential to the side of it. It's like a 0.2 tier or a 0.5 tier. Then you're never really giving them the sense of moving up in the world, and you're not giving people lower the sense of aspiration to actually like try out the content. It's just another side grade thing, kind of like Nightmare, which is just an add-on, which doesn't really add more to the meta of the things. Whereas if you have like a clear marked tiers of power, then which you can do now because the economy is not really going to be a thing in a couple of years. I think there's just going to be so many less mains playing because everyone's just on the GIM or on an Iron Man. If this also helps Jagex with real world trading because no one's going to be trading real world stuff. Like that market's going to be gone, especially with Jewel really going, because there's going to be less mains that need to actually trade that gold. Right, that main game can be pretty much largely ignored now, and you can get a better sense of design and progression and power creep because I think a large majority of the player base will be much more receptive to that line of progression that you can't just buy your way forward on. But at the same time, and especially around the collection log as well, like you need to actually earn it for it to be logged rather than just buying it, which you can actually log it. So again, there's a lot of like different incentive things that Jagex are doing, which are moving the player base towards a more non-trading mindset, which allows them to not only mitigate some of the risks of real world trading, but also introduce playing styles and power creep, which they wouldn't be able to do before if everyone could just buy the thing on day of release and then just kind of like break it. You got to actually go through the journey of doing the raid or killing the boss to actually get the untradeable. Basically every single item that they're going to introduce is untradeable now, because the people that are getting it can't actually trade, or they can only trade within their particular remit, which is a really good compromise and a nice way to phase out mainscape in my opinion. So that's something I haven't seen anyone really talk about, is where the game design is going to go when I think people realize that mains won't really be much of a thing anymore. The only thing that's annoying me is that I don't think Jagex knows this, or knows that they're actually doing this, or that the player base will change in this way. So they should be able to start that ball rolling. And I think they are trying to do that with some of the next and raid free rewards. Personally, I would like it to be like a clear tier jump in power creep. I think it's pretty boring now that some items which are considered entry level rewards from entry level pieces of content are still best in slot. That's never a good look in my eyes. You should be able to clearly emarcate who's done the hardest content with the gear that they're wearing, and you're able to clearly do that because the only way to get it would be for actually doing the content, because your account is locked untradeable, which is the prestige you got on World of Warcraft, and I think would be a nice addition to this game. If you know, so that's just one. Yeah, the annoyance really is like, why can't Jagex just like double down on the fact that they're moving to a more like they're removing trade through virtual, not actually removing the ability to trade, but removing the people who would benefit from trading in the first place. And I just think that's something is not really that much. You also don't have to worry about PKs as well, because there's no real incentive to PK outside of LMS on an Iron Man. There's actually an incentive to PK in LMS on an Iron Man, which I think they are keeping on purpose. But, it's a very clear loophole which they should be able to remove, but they just aren't. And if they had the mindset of phasing out mains as a game mode, then I think that'd be a smart thing to do, to move away from the wilderness being anything other than just a wasteland. Especially when they do the wilderness bosses reworks, if they aren't instant, I think they will people will actually complain about them being instances because again, everyone's playing Iron Man. You're noticing a lot more instances through in the game than I think there's a design direction in the game which allows for much more solo play, less trading, and things being untradeable. Therefore, they can introduce clearly tier marked out items which build on each other and won't actually have an effect on the economy. It's just not going to be an argument. The thing about the argument against the tier progression, though, once the tier progression's in, is that like the tiers also need to be clearly worth going for. If you follow, there's a player called I'm on a PC who's got an Iron on a PC, and he's I think I haven't really talked to him much except for one in the B bank, but when I'm still grinding Nightmare now. But I think what he does is that he doesn't go for things which aren't like by hours worth it. He skips like big chunks of the game because they if you do the math on it, it's actually just not worth going for a glory over a power amulet for like chambers or something. You may as well just go straight to chambers, and with the bare minimum. And if you're good enough at the game, which I think it's very reasonable to say that you can get good enough at the game even at that low level of gear, then there's no point of grinding for that particular piece when it doesn't actually save you that much time over just going for it directly with a lower standard piece of tier, which is a design flaw in the game which I think is being exploited by him, but also people are kind of salty to recognize that the grind that they went on maybe felt psychologically great, but actually wasn't worth it in the end in terms of time saved, which I think is the metric you should be looking at. So I'm definitely guilty of this. Like Cerberus boots probably aren't worth going for on a whole, unless you're going for prims, because they don't really add much to it. Like the items in and of themselves aren't worth like the time going for, even if they're guaranteed through stats and plus effective value to go for. So it's something to think about. I'll definitely like follow Iron on the PC to kind of dissuade you of the fact that you need to actually go for something. There are some things that are definitely worth going for in terms of average time, completion sense, but other things just really aren't, and you're probably shooting yourself in the foot by doing grinds that you shouldn't have, so you can skip it unless you're going for collection log, but then you can just come back to it, which is again another argument. So one last thing I want to talk about is that bingo's coming up for Olympus. I got drafted into Aribar Apes. Very happy with that. Sam is a great leader, and this is my third bingo, but my second time being on one of Sam's team. We won the first one I was on with Sam, so I have high hopes for this one. And just really I was vibing with the other teams. The direction they were going in the draft, so when I got picked up by Sam, nice, and I'm going to try and play as hard as I can for that. My goal for this bingo is to be like just do a big dent in the construction tile. I figured that in previous bingos that's been one of the tiles which is lacking across all the different drafts, and because I have such a big amount of supply for it, I think we're just going to play that role in any play in, and happy to do that for this one. So some other things really that I'm thinking about are getting a lot more glass than I actually need. Not only will I be blowing glass during mahogany homes, which is what I'll be doing, I can do 2 tiles at one then, but also you always just end up spending much more glass than you need, especially in my play style, because I don't really play on weekends. I have access to mobile and sporadic moments of time. I can only craft gems in low glass essentially. So I do if you ever notice my bingo performance, or I do a lot of crafting. I did a lot of herbal last time because I had PC access a lot, but 1414s on mobiles is pretty cancer. So you just want to do 127s and glass blowing, especially during bingo, and especially macro for your own account. So you'll find a lot of people blowing glass. So I need to prep a lot more than you actually need. However much you're prepping, I'll probably like triple that, and you probably still run out because you end up just blowing so much glass during bingo to keep your account logged in and getting some bingo hours. Yeah, I was drafted at level. I was drafted at 40 out of like 50 something, which is pretty standard for me. The highest I've been drafted was like like mids, and I don't expect myself to be drafted any earlier than that unless I can really bring some like big hours into the bingo. But that's just not going to happen because I've got a job with my dad. It's just not happening. Plus, I don't really want to be living that life anymore, to be honest. So I'll leave you with that. Really, that's kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment. Design direction of the game. I guess my current goals, collection log. Current goals is to finish Nightmare, which is about 6k kills on average. But I've been very lucky, very lucky with my drop so far. As you can see, I probably have the most jar gems out of any account on a log. Yeah, less about that, the better. But I've just got the chest plate to go. I've got my first drop was a harm orb, so I've been using that ever since. I've got all 3 of my staffs already. Just need a mace, the chest, and the eldritch orb. If I get the chest first, then that's great. I'll go for the mace. If I get the mace first, that's great. I'll go for the chest. And if I don't get the orb, probably won't go back for it for a while. The pet would be nice, but again, I'll probably go back for it when I start actually grinding for pets. And then next on them would just be next raid 3. Go back to chambers for dust and the kits, and then see where I go from there. Really, I think by that time, by the end of the year, I think I'll be completing Nightmare, or be stopping at Nightmare. That should be give you a couple months. So, and then what I'll be doing then is probably just going to Corp and what I can do there, because Corp's pretty interesting to do while working from home. What I've been doing since April, which really helps with my goals in this game. So that's pretty much it, really. I've got bingo coming up. I only, as I said in the last ramble, I only skill during bingo. So it's going to be my scaling bit for me. Other than that, I'm just kind of AFKing fishing, so I can get some more caviar for the herblore, and yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I haven't done much day out since, but again, these things are slow, and as long as there's bingos for the rest of the time, I'll be hitting 200. But right now, my focus is pretty much on the Eminent Collection, on finding that game a lot more enjoyable. Again, it kind of sucks not having the best gear in the game, which is against Iron PC, but there you go. You're here. So see how that goes. I'll leave you guys to that, and hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below on topics I've raised, specifically around the direction of the game. I think this could be interesting. And any other things that are going on. Tell me what you're grinding, tell me what your goals are for the rest of the year, and like the video and subscribe for more. Hopefully I can get some more stray thoughts on. It's probably what I call it, just stray thoughts. No real say. That's kind of my account at the moment. I won't show the bank, there's nothing really to see at the moment. Maybe at the end of the year I'll do a bank video, but that's where I'm at, that's my goals, that's my thoughts, and yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. Later. Peace.